Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whatever time it is you are joining us. This is the Tulsa World Scene Department gathering around the digital fireplace to talk about things coming up in the arts and entertainment here in the Tulsa area. We work for the Tulsa World, which you can find at fine news sellers everywhere and online at tulsaworld.com. And this little hot biscuit that we put together every week can be viewed online or listened to as a podcast via Apple, Spotify, and any other place from which you pluck your pods on the internet. I'm joined today, as always, by the lovely and talented Grace Wood and the stalwart and handsome Jimmy Trammell.
You lost all credibility there, but I appreciate it.
Well, you know, I mean, we have to celebrate, you know, our little victories wherever we can. So, and speaking of victories, you have something about a local band that has scored big, apparently.
I do have a victory. If you're a band with a moderate or nice local following, you're waiting for that big break that'll catapult you to the next step of your career. A local band, we'll say who it is on Friday. A local band got a really nice career break, and it has to do with, I'll give you a hint, 9 to 5, Jolene, I Will Always Love You. So you kind of know where I'm going with this. I mean, you get an idea dollied up in your head there about who I'm talking about?
Yes, I think that's one even the lovely and talented Grace Wood picked up almost immediately.
Yeah. Look at that.
Most of our references, unfortunately, are a bit too vintage for her, to put it mildly. But so what's your guess as to whom he is talking about?
It's got to be Miss Dolly. She's iconic. I love the song Jolene, and I love her attitude. I think she's just amazing. So
what kind of woman is Jolene who thinks she can steal Dolly Parton's man? I mean, I'm sorry, Jolene, but I don't think you can do it.
I know. I agree.
Well, if memory serves me right, the impetus for that song was that Dolly Parton is married to, I believe his name is Carl Dean, has been married to him for ever. And apparently there was somebody that was trying to move in on her territory, and this inspired that song, whether but anyway, and as I say, that's something from memory, so that will probably be proven wrong, and we'll get cards and letters and about that. But yeah, with the passing of Betty White, I guess Dolly Parton is sort of the real Miss America now. She's done, beyond her success in music, she's also done a whole lot of philanthropic things that a lot of people don't know about. I mean, it was revealed that she helped provide funding for the Moderna vaccine for the COVID-19. And my father, who is a diehard Dolly Parton fan, insisted that he was going to get that he would get the Moderna vaccine because because his Dolly, said that was the one she supported. So
I was waiting for the Jerry Reed vaccine, and apparently it doesn't exist yet. So I went Dolly also.
Well, that just keeps you from fighting alligators in the bayou. Is all that does. Anyway.
Well, yeah, we'll wrap up there, and I'll tell the Dolly connection on Friday and Friday's Tulsa World, tulsaworld.com.
All right. Well, speaking of iconic things, there's a neighborhood here in Tulsa called Lortondale, which we should say it was named for the founders of the Tulsa World, the Lorton family. And you have something about a place within said neighborhood.
Yes, I do. My story this week is about a couple named Christy and Dustin Thames. And they've spent the last few years renovating a mid-century modern home named Lady Lorton that's in the historic Lortondale neighborhood. And although the home was built in 1956, they've taken really great care to preserve all of the original features and materials that were used when it was made back in the 50s. They even went so far as to dumpster dive for original parquet flooring that other people in the neighborhood had been throwing away. And that's really how they completed their remodeling project, was kind of redoing all of the floors, which they did by hand. And now Christy and Dustin live in the home formerly belonging to Donald John, who was the architect of the Lortondale neighborhood. So they turned Lady Lorton into an Airbnb that kind of everyone can enjoy now. And so they're having an open house to kind of show off the Airbnb and the finished product this weekend. So if you want to go to the Tulsa Foundation for Architecture website, you can check it out there. It's really cool. The photos are just like super stunning. It looks like something out of the TV show Mad Men. So definitely check it out.
Well, yeah, the interesting thing, I lived for many years in that neighborhood, although I did not live in one of the Lortondale homes. But I've seen them, and they're unique in that they are all flat roofed. Mm-hmm. And most of them, if I remember correctly, they did not have garages. They just had like carports when they originally were made. And then, but then a lot of people have taken those and have, put in garages, have added extra stories. I mean, a lot of people have completely, remade them over. So, but it's a neat little bit of architectural history, that's for sure. So, okay. Well, to go to speaking of history of Tulsa, mm-hmm. I believe, Mr. Jimmy, you are going to be taking us to church come Sunday.
How about 304 South Trenton? I believe there's a church there in the shadow of the Freeway Cafe, where, oh, by the way, Tom Petty signed his contract with Shelter Records way back in the day at Freeway Cafe, across from Church Studio, which is being renovated and is going to reopen soon. We'll have a story Sunday about what you can expect when Church Studio opens. Teresa Knox, it appears, has spared no expense, turning off the phone, and in restoring Church Studio to greatness. And I think people are really, really, really going to like the mix of old and new once they get inside and see this.
Now, Church Studio, this was for many years Leon Russell's kind of headquarters, and also for Shelter Records, of which he was. Was he an owner of Shelter Records or just a part of it?
No, thank you for explaining, because I assumed everyone would know what Church Studio is, and you can't make that assumption. In 1972, Leon Russell bought Church Studio, and he and Denny Cordell, an English producer, had two headquarters for their label, Shelter Records. One was in Tulsa, the other was out on the West Coast. But for a period of about 4 or 5 years, Church Studio was a magnet for musicians from all over the globe who would come to this little church turned recording studio in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I mean, all kind of famous people were popping up here. So it's a place just drenched in history, and it's a really cool place. I'm glad to see it back up and running again.
And Teresa Knox, who now owns it, is herself a huge Leon Russell fan, yes, and has been accumulating a massive collection of memorabilia associated with him and with Church Studio. So it's going to be the place for all things Leon. And across the street from the studio, you can check out the mural of Time and Space, which are paintings by Tulsa artist Patrick Gordon that use imagery associated with Leon Russell in a variety of paintings on the building across the street. So,
Grace, it's so wild that Tulsa has become like this music mecca, music destination place. We've got one for Woody Guthrie, one for Bob Dylan that's going to open in May. We got Leon Russell. Give me someone you would like to see, a Grace favorite you would like to see some kind of tribute to in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Ooh, Grace favorite. That's a hard one. Would they have to be like an Oklahoma artist or just
It can be anybody Grace wants.
anybody Grace wants? Maybe maybe like a Led Zeppelin tribute.
Ah, okay.
That's my
Well,
favorite
Robert
band.
Plant's been here to play before, so maybe that'll happen someday.
I know. And with his like solo career that he's doing right now, I feel like I could see him really enjoying the church studio. I feel like everything that he's doing kind of goes along with that. So who knows?
Well, and another thing about the heyday of the church studio, this was mainly the 70s and early 80s, if I remember correctly. And that was also the heyday of what was called the Devil's Triangle, which was the area around 18th and Boston. There were restaurants and music venues like the Nine of Cups and like the Boston Avenue Market that featured live music. And I know that the Nine of Cups, which is long gone, unfortunately, was where people who had come to Tulsa to work with Leon would go there late at night to take part in jam sessions. And people recall seeing Eric Clapton and George Harrison and all kinds of people coming through there and playing music and eating stuffed baked potatoes. So it was a wild and different time. But what else? Speaking of that, the spot that was the Boston Avenue Market, unfortunately was the victim of fire last week. It's occupied by the restaurant Burnco Barbecue, and that caught fire late last week, or late at night, one night last week, and it's pretty much destroyed. One of the nice things about the Oklahoma music community is that they quickly rallied, and the Mercury Lounge, which is located across the street from Burnco and Farm Bar and Delisandro's and a number of other restaurants at 18th and Boston, hosted a day-long benefit show with about a dozen local acts, raised more than $10,000 that will go to the employees of Burnco and Farm Bar to help them with living expenses as they wait for things to get back started again. So that's always a good thing. And if you want to have Burnco Barbecue, you can visit their location in Jinx at the riverfront, just right across the river off of 71st, I believe it is. Further south.
A little further out.
Yeah, 91st, down closer to 91st. That's right. And if you're not in the mood for barbecue, we'll talk about a couple of new places. One new place, and keeping with our vintage theme, one old place. The new place is called Sidecar Barley and Wine Bar. It is it's on 15th Street, at the top of a new 5-story mixed-use complex. It's primarily a bar, as you might guess, but they do have food, and we talk about what there is to eat and what we like about it. One of the neat things about the place, because it's on the 5th floor, the north and south walls of the place are glass garage doors that, when the weather is clement, they'll open them up to give greater access to the patio and create cross breeze. So it's really a neat place to spend some time. Although, given what we're experiencing today in the weather, I wouldn't recommend going outside now. Also, speaking of vintage, we visit Tim's Midtown Diner, which many people for many years knew as Phil's Diner. It has a new owner, but that's about the only thing that's new. He's kept the same staff. They haven't messed with the menu. And since we've not done a review about it in 20 years, we decided to see if it's still worth going to. So keep an eye peeled for that in a future issue of the Tulsa World.
This is like 32nd and Harvard or so?
32nd and Harvard, yes.
Okay.
It's been a diner since 1976. It's had 3 or 4, this may be the third, maybe the fourth name change, but it's always been your basic, it's a neighborhood place.
Yeah.
And the man who owns it now is named Tim Shadlow, and he said what he liked about it, the reason why he wanted to keep it the way it was, or is, or and always will be, is it gives that small town vibe in the middle of a big city. If the waitresses don't recognize you, they will call you hun. If they do recognize you, and they recognize most of the people that come in, I can testify to that, they'll call you by their name. If they see your car pull up, they'll yell what you usually order back to the kitchen, so they get started on it before you even sit down. So it's a neat place. So
yeah,
That's awesome.
all right. Well, I think that covers what we cover so far. Want to again thank you all for spending some time with us. Remember to look for the Tulsa World and purchase copies wherever you can. And we will gladly see you later.
Goodbye.
Bye.
For more information, you can visit tulsaworld.com.